Hi everyone. Today we're going to do a fairly short video. We're going to look at how you can deploy a Node.js application to the Azure Web App. I think there's been, well, at least I've seen some confusion out there about running Node.js application on Azure Web App service. So hopefully today I can show you that it's very simple, and I'll walk you through exactly how to do that. First thing, we obviously have to create the Azure Web App itself. So let's create a new resource, and we'll choose a web app. Subscription, we can create a new group, call it resource group, call it Node. Let's call it Node.js Web App. Just a sample. Instance is going to be Node.js Web App, and you will see that as of I think summer of 2024 or something like that, Microsoft now adds this long randomly generated string plus the region that you've chosen. So if I change the region, for example, to Central US, then you will see that it's going to update the region. The reason why they do that is to avoid or to reduce the risk of subdomain takeovers. Something I don't want to get into right now, but I mean, there's still an option to do just a domain name. I mean, that one's taken, so let's enable this, but that's an option that's still kind of available to either turn on or off. I think they may make it mandatory in the future. So the stack we're going to choose is Node 20. Let's do Windows OS for two reasons. One is that there are actually more plans available, or pricing plans, I mean, available under Windows. Like both Windows and Linux allow free plan. Windows allows an additional low-cost shared plan, which is slightly more resources available than free, but Linux does not allow that. But there's also an additional configuration step that Windows operating system for Azure Web App requires that I'll show you later, that Linux does not. So that's why I want to do Windows. So everything we do, if we chose Linux, will still apply. Like it's literally the same thing, and at the end of it all. But with Windows, there's one additional configuration step that is very important that I will show you later. So we can choose next, deployment, continuous deployment. Let's not enable. I think I will actually show you how GitHub continuous deployment works. But for now, let's just not do that because we don't have any GitHub repository yet. Public access, yes. Application insights, I mean, we could create it, but for this one we don't really need it, so I'll say no. But ultimately, yes, you can, for any production application, you should enable app insights so that you can track performance and gather logs and things like that. I mean, logs are available without application insights, and maybe I can show you where that is as well, but I just don't want to create extra resources right now. So tags, no tags, review, create, take a look at everything. Everything looks good. We'll just create the application. And it takes a few seconds to create the application, and once it's done, say go to resource, and make sure that everything looks good. All right, so there's our URL. If we click on it now, it's just going to take us to standard default web kind of landing page from Microsoft that says it's the app is running and waiting for the content. So now let's build the actual application, and then we'll publish it to the web app. This tutorial, I'll just create a simple ExpressJS application that will deploy to our Azure Web App. So as always, we have to initialize a folder, Node.js Web App, version, description, Node.js sample app deployed to Azure Web App. Index, test, no test. For now, nothing else. Okay, so it generates package.json. In fact, there's one thing we have to make sure. If we're not running any tests, we have to make sure that we disable the exit one, because the build will fail when you try to upload it to Azure Web App. So we'll save that, and we will install Express, and that's it, because we're not going to do anything else. Just very simple, very basic Express application. Our start is going to be Node.js, and we'll create an index.js file. And since we're doing it quickly, let's actually use our Copilot and ask it to create a simple Express.js application with let's make it more fun. Let's make it with a couple of entries, with two URL entry points dot slash and slash other. Okay, so let's copy that and paste it. So we have our Express. Hello world. This is the other route. Let's make it a little more fun. Let's actually send some HTML code back. So let's create a couple of different files. One is gonna called main.html and another one called other.html. Again, back to our Copilot and say create a simple HTML page with a heading and some paragraph. So that looks like it's going to be our other page. I guess I forgot to specify. Oh, because I was in the other page, it thinks that that's the one I want to create. That's fine. So that's going to be other. We'll save it. Let's do the same thing for main, and we'll just change this to main page, and then say welcome to main page. Sounds good to me. Nothing fancy. I mean, obviously we can get fancy, fancier than this. Okay. Now there are a couple of other things we have to create here. One is, well, first of all, we're not sending our HTML code back. So instead of this send, we're going to say send file, and our files is going to be main.html. We can say root, just local folder, and we'll do the same for the other route, except we're going to send the other file. So that's one thing. Now it's going to send us the the HTML code back. Let's test it, make sure it works. npm start, running on 3000. Localhost 3000. Okay, main page, and then other is going to send us the other. Okay, perfect. So this works. The only other thing we have to do is create some environment variables. So of course, before we do that, we have to install .env. Make sure it's there. Oh, sorry, npm install, of course. .env. Okay. Now in index.html, we now have to require. Oh, okay. So my copilot knows exactly what I want to do, and the reason why we do that is because when you deploy this application to a web app is obviously not running on port 3000. So here we specify port 3000, but that's just on a local machine. When we deploy this to web app only works on ports 80 and 443. And the way you kind of accept the port that's provided by the platform is by creating an environment variable called port. And our port is going to be, well, here we're going to use 3000, but on the Azure Web App, this port will be already pre-configured. Like this environment variable is one of the default ones. So instead of this port here, we say process.env.port. And then we'll just do the same thing here as a display, and we don't actually need this port anymore. Okay. All right, so let's just run it again. Make sure we get our not that npm start on 3000. Okay, so just double check, and everything looks good. We get the main page. Okay, perfect. Now, because we'll make it a GitHub repository to do automatic deployment, we want to make sure that our environment variable file will not be uploaded to GitHub. So we'll create a git ignore file, and in here we put a .env and node modules, because again we don't want to store the modules in GitHub as well. And let's create a repository. So we initialize it, and it's going to be just main repository called Node.js Web App. Let's add all the changes, do our first commit. And we're good. Okay, so we're not going to publish it yet to the remote branch. We'll just create a local repository, and our environment and node modules are ignored. Okay, perfect. So now we're ready to publish this to the web application. Now there are a couple of different ways you can deploy this app. Let's close our Copilot window here. So one, I guess the easier way is to deploy it straight from VS Code, and to do that you have to install this Azure extension here, and you have to obviously log into Azure with your credentials, and then it will pull your subscription and all the resources and things like that. So that's kind of an easier way to do it. In order to deploy this application, you have to drill into the subscription under App Services. Here's our Node.js Web App, and you can kind of right-click and say Deploy to Web App, and then you can just choose your folder and deploy. and watch things happen. It's going to generate the script, and that's it. I mean, it's pretty quick because it's a very simple, very small application. All right, so you can actually come here, make sure the files are there. As you can see, it uploaded the .env. Well, actually, why did it deploy the .env? It didn't. It shouldn't have. Oh, that's because we're not doing it through GitHub action, right? We're deploying it straight from the local, from the local repository. Now, there are ways to eliminate certain files, but anyways, I'll show you how to do it through GitHub a little bit later. But just so you can see all of our application files, the main application files are there. Now, if we run this, it will not work, and I'll show you. I'll show you why. So when you come here, and kind of refresh this application URL, which is basically the default domain for the application, as you can see, our Azure default landing page is now gone, and it says you don't have permission to view this directory page. That's happening because of that additional parameter that we haven't included yet, or the additional environment variable. Which is only required for the Windows operating system web applications, right? So see, operating system is Windows, so this is why this environment variable is required. So in order to do that extra environment variable, you have to go here under settings. So when you look at your application, you have this menu item called settings, and you go to environment variables, and you have to add one, and it's called SCM do build during deployment. SCM do build during deployment, and you set the value to true, and you apply, and you have to make sure you click this apply, because if you just browse away from this page, this will not be saved. So you have to apply again and say confirm. It may or may not restart the application. So you will see that this is still not working, right? So even after we added this one extra variable, the application still doesn't work, because this environment variable only takes effect when you build the application, when you build during the build stage. And the reason why it's not working right now is because there is no web.config file in our files files tree here, right? So in order to rebuild it, you can either rebuild it again. I mean, you can redeploy this thing again, say just deploy, or let's do the, since I'm going to show you kind of both ways to deploy the application, let's actually deploy it through GitHub this time. Again, the result is the same, but it's just a different way to do it. So first of all, there is no repository in GitHub yet, so let's publish. We'll make it just a public repository. We can open it in GitHub, just make sure it's there. So we're gonna need this link here from the repository, and we go to the application again, the web app, and down here in the menu under automation, or sorry, not automation, no, where is that? Sorry, it's under deployment, under deployment center. Come on. The portal is being slow today for some reason. Let's refresh this. so continuous deployment with GitHub and organization. Now this repository, actually, yeah, this is easier. We don't have to paste anything. We can just publish which branch we want, things like that. Authentication type, create new, and we can save this. Wait for it to finish, and that's it, successfully finished. Perfect. So now it's actually in progress of deploying it again. Now you can click on this and you can actually view the progress of your application being deployed through GitHub. You know, step-by-step build and then deploy actions. This shouldn't be too long because our app is super simple. Right, so build is complete. Now it's going to deploy it to the web application. Again, this shouldn't take too long. Okay, so it's finished and everything is green, so everything looks good. Now if you go back to our VS Code and we look at the files, we can just probably refresh this. See, now we have this web.config file. This is the important file to make things work. This is the one we didn't have before, and that extra environment variable we added to the Azure environment, the app service or the web app, made the deployment, the build and deploy process create this file. So now if we go back to the actual application and we run it, now we get our main page, and if we go to /other, we should get the other page. So now we have a fully deployed and functional Node.js application running in our Azure Web App environment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you'll never miss an update. If you have any questions or feedback, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from all of you. Or visit my website, harchenko.net, and all my contact information is there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.